It's a moment seared into my soul, one I'll never forget. I walked back into what I thought was my mother's home, after 5 long years working abroad, only to find her living as a maid in the very house I'd bought for her. And she didn't even know who I was. That night, I called my lawyer because I knew one thing for sure: justice was coming, and it was going to be brutal. For 5 grueling years, I was Paul Rowe, an industrial welder, battling noisy, freezing construction sites in Japan. Every ounce of my sweat and muscle was dedicated to one goal: sending money home to my mother. She was my everything, the woman who'd raised me and my younger brother, Colin, alone after our father died too young in a workplace accident. I still carried the memory of her, tired from the textile factory, yet sitting by the fireplace, telling us fairy tales until we drifted off to sleep. I sent money. I video called every week, but nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the thought of holding her tight again, feeling that familiar warmth. The plane touched down in Los Angeles, and I rushed out, my heart pounding like a kid on Christmas morning. I hailed a taxi, giving the driver the address of the small house on the city's outskirts, the one I'd bought for her years ago. But as the cab pulled up, my excitement froze into a chilling dread. The house looked different. The old-fashioned latch lock she always used, because she was scared of losing keys, was gone, replaced by a sleek, cold electronic lock, blinking LED lights. And everywhere, on every wall, were surveillance cameras, at least 4 of them, sweeping back and forth like robotic eyes. My mother, Matilda, was 58, gentle, and utterly clueless about technology. She was even scared of the smartphone I'd bought her. How could she have installed all this herself? I tried to calm myself, but a strange, icy feeling started creeping in. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. I took a deep breath, set my suitcase aside, and pressed the doorbell. The familiar chime from my childhood echoed through the quiet street. I waited, a hopeful smile on my face, picturing Mom rushing to the door, eyes glistening, shouting, "Paul, my boy is home." But nothing, just silence. I pressed again, holding it longer this time. Still nothing. My heart started hammering. Maybe she was napping, or out at the market. No, I told her I was coming. I rang a 3rd time, then a 4th. Finally, I started calling out, my voice thick with desperation. "Mom, it's Paul. Your son is back." The house remained unnaturally quiet, like a tomb. A terrifying thought clawed at me. Was Mom sick? A chill ran down my spine. Then, a click from inside. The door swung open, and I stood there, stunned. It wasn't Mom. It was Colin, my 28-year-old younger brother. The Colin I remembered was an unemployed deadbeat, reckless, a drinker, a gambler. He stood there in a ratty old t-shirt, hair messy, eyes a little red, like he'd just woken up. When he saw me, he flinched, visibly shocked for a split second. I caught it. Then, instantly, he plastered on a huge, almost forced smile, teeth showing. But his eyes were hollow. "Brother Paul, oh my God, you're back. Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" His voice was too high-pitched, nothing like his usual lazy drawl. Before I could even answer, he lunged forward, throwing his arms around me in a tight hug, slapping my back, acting overly happy. I was taken aback. Colin had never been this affectionate. Growing up, we'd fought constantly. He was lazy. I did all the chores. The last time I saw him, before Japan, we'd argued because he'd borrowed money and never paid it back. This sudden, fake embrace sent a jolt of weariness through me. Something was profoundly off. I patted his shoulder, gently pushing him away. "Yeah, I'm back. But why are you here? Where's Mom?" Colin laughed, a loud, hollow sound, and pulled me inside. Come in. We'll talk inside. Carla, babe, Paul's home." He ushered me in like he owned the place. I stepped through the gate, dragging my suitcase, and immediately noticed the transformation. The familiar living room, with Mom's old knitting sofa, was now furnished with shiny leather couches, a massive flat-screen TV, and brand-new shelves filled with trendy, impersonal decor. The whole atmosphere felt like it belonged to a young, modern couple, not my kind, old mother. I frowned. The house has changed a lot. Huh? You did all this? Just then, Carla, Colin's 27-year-old wife, emerged from a bedroom. She wore a short dress, her hair tied high, flashing a bright but strangely artificial smile, like she was performing. Paul, hi. It's been forever. Colin talks about you all the time. Her voice was sweet, but I sensed a strain, a calculation. I remembered Carla as demanding, always pushing Colin to make money while she herself did nothing but shop. Now, watching her, holding a glass of water, her eyes darting quickly toward the kitchen, everything felt even stranger. I sat on the sofa, trying to keep my voice calm. Where's Mom? I've been calling, and she never came out. Colin sat next to me, slapping my thigh. Oh, Mom's in the kitchen. She's doing great, don't worry. But he hesitated for a split second, his voice dropping slightly. I raised an eyebrow. In the kitchen, we've been talking so loudly. How come she didn't hear? She always used to rush out right away. Colin gave an awkward laugh. She's a bit tired, doing something. I'll go call her. Before he could react further, I asked directly, why are you and Carla living here? This is Mom's house. The house I bought for her before I left. Don't you two have your own place? Colin answered smoothly, as if he'd rehearsed it. Well, about a year after you went abroad, Mom started getting weaker. Forgetful, sometimes dizzy. I thought it was dangerous for her to live alone, so I suggested my wife and I move in to take care of her. Mom agreed right away. Said it's nicer to have family around, less lonely. I was a bit surprised. When had Mom gotten weak? Why hadn't she mentioned any of this during our video calls? But I didn't suspect too much then. I knew Mom loved her children, especially Colin, even though he was a mess. She had lived alone for 5 years. It made sense she'd agree to let Colin move in to ease the loneliness. I nodded. Oh, I see. That's good. I'm glad you thought of Mom. But deep down, a cold doubt flickered. Why hadn't she ever told me about this? I glanced at Carla and caught her shooting a quick, unreadable look toward the kitchen, a mix of worry and caution, before she immediately smiled again, hiding whatever it was. A cold shiver ran down my spine, like an invisible hand tightening around my throat. My heart raced, cold sweat broke out on my back. Something was seriously wrong here. The changed house, new locks, cameras everywhere, Colin and Carla living here, and Mom not coming out to greet her son after 5 years apart. I stood up. Never mind. I'll go see her in the kitchen myself. Colin jumped up too. Yeah, let me take you. But I didn't wait. I headed straight for the kitchen. Every step felt heavy. The air in the house suddenly became oppressive, tense, like a scene from a horror movie. I could hear the faint clinking of dishes from the kitchen. But why wasn't Mom calling out? The bad feeling surged stronger, and I pushed the kitchen door open hard, ready to face whatever was waiting on the other side. And then I froze on the threshold, my heart almost stopping. There, in front of me, was my mother, Matilda, but not the mother I remembered. She was wearing an old, crumpled maid's outfit, the faded apron she used to wear only when scrubbing the house years ago. She was bent over the kitchen sink, looking utterly exhausted, visibly gaunt and frail, her hands trembling as if she had no strength left. Those rough, calloused fingers that had worked hard her entire life now shook violently as they clutched a sponge. Water dripped from the faucet onto the wet floor. The heavy air in the kitchen was thick with the smell of detergent mixed with leftover food. But what truly paralyzed me was the sight of Asteriska Star, the strong woman who had single-handedly raised my brother and me, now reduced to a shadow, weak and utterly drained. Why was she doing housework in this condition? My throat tightened, tears welled up, but I forced them back. I called out to her, my voice strangled, as if someone were choking me. Mom! She turned her head slowly, looking at me with dull, vacant eyes, as though struggling to recognize a distant face from a foggy memory. Her hair had turned much grayer, tangled and unkempt. Her face was so sunken, I barely recognized her. Deep wrinkles carved into her skin, cheeks hollow, eyes cloudy behind a veil of mist. She used to be radiant, always beaming when I came home. But now she looked as if she had aged 10 years in the 5 I'd been away. A sharp knife of pain stabbed through my chest. How had Mom ended up like this? I had sent money home faithfully every month, believing she was living comfortably. Yet, the reality in front of me left me reeling. She stayed at me for a long time, blinking, trying to focus. Then, a faint spark of recognition flickered in her eyes. She stammered, "Paul, my son, you're back." Her voice trembled, breaking off between words. Her feet shuffled slightly, as if she wanted to come closer. She let the sponge fall from her hands, water dripping onto the floor. In that moment, hope flared inside me. I wanted to rush forward and hug her right then. But instantly, Colin cut in from behind, his voice quick and loud. "Mom, go rest. You're not feeling well. You shouldn't be working so hard, or you'll wear yourself out." He darted into the kitchen, planting himself between me and her, one hand on her shoulder as if holding her back, his face full of forced concern. Yet, I clearly saw the strain in it, the panic beneath the pretense. I turned to Colin, waiting for an explanation about this not feeling well business. Why hadn't anyone told me? But in that split second, I saw him flinch, his shoulders tensing before he forced himself to relax and flash that awkward smile. "Paul, Mom gets tired really easily. Let me help her." I frowned. The unease inside me grew stronger. Why was he reacting so fast, as if he'd rehearsed this exact scenario? Colin spoke hurriedly, his voice rising slightly with tension. "Lately, Mom's been really forgetful. Sometimes she remembers things, sometimes she doesn't, and she gets emotional easily. She cries when she sees people she knows. Come on, let's take her to the living room and talk there. Standing here too long will tire her out." Carla appeared in the doorway, her tone soft, but her eyes flashing with a cold calculation. "He's right, Paul. I'll get her some water to feel better." Their reactions were too quick, too perfectly synchronized, like they had practiced this, prepared answers for every possible question. The strange feeling inside me swelled like a balloon about to burst. What were they hiding? Why did Mom look so utterly exhausted? And why had they left her washing dishes alone, in that state? I didn't wait any longer. I stepped forward and wrapped my mother in a tight hug. She trembled in my arms, her body cold and fragile, completely unlike the warm, strong embrace I remembered from the days she comforted me after fights with Colin, or cooked dinner for us despite her own exhaustion. Now she was so thin, I could feel every bone. Her skin was ice cold, as if she hadn't been warm in a very long time. Overwhelming sorrow surged through me. I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. "Mom, I'm home. I'm so sorry I left you alone for so long." She whispered something incoherent, resting her head on my shoulder. But she didn't hug me back, as if she were afraid. I gently led her to the living room, supporting her step by careful step, because she walked unsteadily, her legs shaky. The moment we sat on the sofa, the first thing I asked was, "Why are you letting Mom do housework in this state? She's so weak. She needs to rest." Carla jumped in quickly, her voice dripping with forced sincerity. "Oh, Paul, she insists on doing it. She says she wants to keep busy, that sitting idle makes her restless. Colin and I have tried to stop her, but she won't listen." Colin nodded vigorously. "Exactly, bro, Mom's stubborn as a mule. We tell her over and over, but she never listens." Yet, their excuses rang completely hollow. How could Mom insist on washing dishes with hands that shook like that? And why weren't they helping her? I turned to Mom, trying to speak gently. "Mom, it's Paul. Look at me clearly. Are you okay? How have you been living? If anything's wrong, tell me. Don't hide it from me." Matilda looked at me, struggling to form words. Her sentences were broken and halting. "My son, I missed you, but my mind's been so confused lately." Her memory was clearly jumbled, her voice small and trembling, as though she was terrified of saying the wrong thing. Every time she hesitated, or seemed about to say something, Colin or Carla immediately interrupted, answering for her, talking over her. "Mom says she's fine, just forgetful." Or, "Carla, she missed you so much, but she's tired now. Mom fell silent at once, shrinking into herself in fear, shoulders hunching, eyes dropping like a frightened bird. That was the moment everything became crystal clear. Matilda kept glancing at Colin and Carla with anxious, wary eyes, the look of someone long accustomed to being controlled and too scared to speak without permission. She huddled on the sofa, clutching the hem of her apron as if afraid of being scolded for saying the wrong thing. My heart clenched with a mixture of pain and rage. What the hell was going on here? Why was my mother terrified of her own son and daughter-in-law? I wanted to ask her directly, "Mom, tell me, what have they done to you?" But with Colin and Carla sitting right there on either side, watching her every move, I knew she wouldn't dare tell the truth. She would stay silent, or repeat whatever script they'd given her. I swallowed my words, choking on them, while my mind spun with 1,000 questions. I had planned to stay the night, cook for her, hold her while she slept like when I was little. But the tension and the way Colin kept trying to control everything made it clear that staying now would get me nowhere. They would watch every second. I'd never get a moment alone with her. "Okay, I'll stay tonight, Mom," I tried. Colin immediately cut in. "The house is cramped. Bro sleeping on the sofa wouldn't be comfortable. Just stay at a hotel and rest properly. Come back tomorrow." Carla nodded. "Yeah, she's really weak these days. Let her sleep early so she feels better." Their intention was obvious. They wanted me gone so they could keep controlling her. In the end, I stood up, kissed Mom on the forehead, and said, "I'm going to visit some old friends for a bit. Take care of yourself, okay?" It was a lie. I needed time to think. Colin instantly asked, his voice thick with worry, "How many days will you be gone? And will you come back here afterward?" I saw right through him. He wanted me away as long as possible, so I answered vaguely, "After I see my friends, I might have to fly straight back to Japan. I only got a short leave. Work's crazy." Colin visibly relaxed his shoulders, a genuine smile breaking across his face. "Cool. Have fun then." That unguarded reaction sent a chill through me. Why was he so relieved? As if my leaving meant they were free to do whatever they wanted. It confirmed beyond doubt that in this house, something horrific was being hidden. I stepped out of the gate, my heart heavy as if it were dragging stones behind it. The late afternoon sunlight slanted through the trees, but it couldn't chase away the gnawing dread eating at me from the inside. Through the window, Mom watched me leave, her eyes glistening with tears. Yet she didn't dare wave, as if terrified of being punished for it. The sight stabbed my heart. Why was she so afraid? I hailed a taxi, slumped into the backseat, and told the driver in a hoarse voice, "Head straight to the outskirts, toward the airport." But halfway there, passing familiar streets lined with coffee shops and children playing, I suddenly changed my mind. "Turn around, man. Find a hotel near the old neighborhood instead." The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror and raised an eyebrow. "What's up, kid? Forget something." I shook my head, my voice low. "No, I just don't want to go far yet." The truth was, a terrible unease gnawed at me. A dark premonition whispered that if I truly left now, Mom would be in real danger. I needed to see what would happen once they thought I was gone. Once they believed I'd flown back to Japan, and they could act freely without fear of being caught. The taxi stopped in front of a small, run-down hotel, the kind of place meant for working-class guys like me. Simple rooms, hard beds, but only a few miles from Mom's house. I paid, dragged my suitcase inside, and checked into the cheapest room available. The place was dim and smelled of damp mold, but I didn't care. I collapsed onto the bed, my mind spinning. 5 years in Japan, slaving away welding steel amid smoke, dust, and deafening machines, thinking that sending money home every month was enough to keep Mom comfortable. And now, the house filled with brand new things. Mom, skin and bones. Colin and Carla controlling her every glance. I remembered our recent video calls. She'd always cut them short, saying, "I'm fine, son." But her eyes avoided the camera, as if someone were watching her. Now everything clicked into place, forming a horrifying picture. I had to watch them. I had to find proof. But how could Colin do this? He was my little brother, blood of my blood. When we were kids, we played together. I taught him how to kick a soccer ball. Mom would smile and say, "You two love each other. Always protect one another." And now he betrayed her for money. The thought sent ice through my veins. I lay awake all night, the distant sound of traffic echoing like a warning. For the next few days, I watched from a distance, acting like an amateur detective. Early each morning, I put on an old jacket and baseball cap, stood at the street corner a safe distance away, hiding behind the trees. I saw Colin and Carla forcing Matilda to take some kind of pills every day. Each morning, they made her sit at the dining table. Carla would hold a cloudy white pill, shove it into Mom's mouth, and Mom would swallow with trembling hands, eyes downcast, never resisting. I thought they were vitamins. She really was weak. Maybe she needed them, so I didn't dwell on it at first. But why was she growing more and more dazed? I remembered how strong she used to be, walking to the market, laughing. Mom still got plenty of strength. Don't worry about me. Now she shuffled around the house like a ghost, doing chores from dawn till dusk. I watched for 3 straight days, my heart pounding every time they locked the doors and the cameras swept the yard like they were keeping her prisoner. During the day, Colin would go out, supposedly job hunting, as he claimed. But I saw him hanging out at the nearby bar, laughing with his buddies. Carla stayed home, her face always twisted in anger, snapping and yelling at Mom for dropping a plate while washing dishes. I wanted to charge in, but I held back. I needed solid proof. Those nights in the hotel, I lay clutching my phone, scrolling through old photos of Mom, tears streaming down my face. Why hadn't I come home sooner? Regret and dread churned inside me like a ticking bomb. By the way, if you're still with me, make sure to hit subscribe. More unbelievable stories are coming. Then one evening, everything shattered. It was pitch black outside, a cold drizzle falling. I stood in the shadows across the street, rain soaking my coat, but I didn't care. Through the lit kitchen window, I watched Mom frantically preparing dinner, her hands shaking as she carried a tray of food, looking on the verge of collapse. She staggered, tried to steady herself, then suddenly fainted. The tray crashed to the floor with a deafening clatter that echoed through the quiet night. My heart seized as if someone were crushing it. I almost ran forward right then. But in that instant, Carla burst in like a wild animal, her face crimson with rage. She screamed, "You useless old hack. You ruin everything. Look at this mess. Good for nothing." She started kicking Mom. Hard, merciless kicks, trying to rouse her. "Get up. Stop faking it. You think passing out will make me go easy on you." She didn't care that Mom had just collapsed. She kept kicking the frail body, unleashing all her fury. Carla hurled the cruelest insults through the open window. "Keeping you around is nothing but a waste. You can't do anything right. Why are you still alive, just leeching off us forever?" Those words cut into me like knives. I stood frozen, blood rushing to my head. All I could see was my mother crumpled on the floor. My mother, the woman who had sacrificed everything for her children, was being treated like garbage by her own daughter-in-law. Pain and rage exploded inside me like wildfire. I couldn't hold back anymore. I charged toward the house. My heart pounded, breathless with fury. I kicked in the back door with a splintering crash and stormed into the kitchen, my face burning, breathing ragged. Carla spun around, saw me, and turned deathly pale, like she'd seen a ghost. She stammered, "People. I didn't mean. Why are you here?" Her mouth couldn't form a coherent sentence. Her hands shook as she pointed at Mom on the floor. I didn't let her finish. I swung my open hand and slapped her across the face hard. The crack echoed through the kitchen. She stumbled, nearly fell, clutching her cheek, eyes wide with shock. Blood roaring in my ears, I roared, my voice tearing through the air. "Who the hell do you think you are? That's my mother. What did she ever do to you that you dare kick her like that? She fainted and you still scream at her." The kitchen froze. Carla leaned against the wall, face ashen, lips trembling, only able to babble in terror. First, I just got angry because she spilled. At that moment, frantic footsteps thundered in. Colin rushed out from the bedroom and stopped dead when he saw me towering in the middle of the kitchen. "But bro, Paul, why are you still here?" His voice cracked with panic. Instinctively, he jumped in front of his wife, trying to sound tough. Calm down. Don't make a scene. The neighbors will hear. One hand reached to hold me back, but his eyes darted wildly. Panic and calculation plain to see. I pointed straight at my brother, my voice like iron. Shut up. Why do you let Mom work in that condition? She's weak. Why don't you help her? Why do you let your wife scream at her, even knock her down? She's your mother, too. Colin desperately defended himself, his voice shrill. You've got it all wrong. Carla's been stressed from work lately. She just snapped. What just happened was an accident. Mom fell. Nobody pushed her. It's not a big deal. He forced an awkward smile and tried to put an arm around me, but I shoved him off and stared into the eyes of the little brother I once loved. My voice was deadly still. If I hadn't been here, how would I have seen this? And if I'd really left, what worse things would the two of you do to her? Did you think once I was back in Japan, you could torture her freely? Colin was speechless, his mouth opening and closing with lame excuses. It's not like that. I take care of her. Meanwhile, Carla hid behind him, turning away, trying to mask her contempt, but her eyes burned with hatred toward Matilda, as if Mom were her mortal enemy. I saw their true faces clearly. Not children, but parasites. I wouldn't let Mom suffer one more second. I rushed forward, bent down, and scooped Matilda into my arms. Her body was limp, ice cold. Her breathing so faint, my heart nearly stopped. I turned to Colin, my eyes like blades. I'm taking Mom out of here right now. Colin lunged in panic to block the door. What are you doing? She needs rest. Put her down. In that instant, every ounce of restraint inside me collapsed. I kicked him hard in the chest. He flew backward, slammed into the cabinets, doubled over in pain. I clutched Mom tightly to my chest and strode out, ignoring Colin's groans of agony and Carla's look of pure terror behind me. In that moment, I understood perfectly. This was no longer just a family argument. This was a declaration of war, the beginning of the price they would pay. Carla stood there, her eyes blazing with hatred, but not daring to lunge at me, only muttering under her breath, "You'll regret this." I didn't look back. I stepped out into the pitch-black street, rain still falling, hailed a taxi, my heart pounding like a war drum. Mom stirred in my arms, her eyes half opening, breathing shallow, but I felt her fingers weakly clutch mine, clinging to a fragile thread of hope. The taxi sped through the rainy night, street lights flickering through the windows, casting sharp shadows over Mom's gaunt, hollow-cheeked face, her eyes still clouded with lingering fear. I held her tighter and whispered, "It's okay, Mom. I'm taking you to the hospital right now. Everything's going to be all right." She didn't answer, just gave a faint nod and rested her head on my shoulder. My heart hung suspended between terror and guilt. Terror that I might already be too late. Guilt that I had left her in that house for 5 long years. In Japan, I'd worked myself to the bone, welding steel amid smoke, dust, and deafening noise, thinking that sending money home was enough to keep her comfortable, enough to make up for my absence. And now she had been abused, poisoned, and I, her eldest son, had known nothing. Every time the image of Carla kicking her, or Colin making excuses, flashed through my mind, my blood boiled. I would never forgive them. But first, I had to save Mom. The taxi screeched to a halt outside the emergency entrance. Neon lights glared white against the rain. I carried her inside and shouted, "Doctor, please help my mother. She just collapsed." Nurses rushed over with a wheelchair and whisked her into the ER. One of them stopped me at the door. That night, the hospital buzzed with machines and the sharp smell of disinfectant, but I barely noticed. Doctors ran full exams, drew blood, took x-rays. I sat outside the room, burning with anxiety. Every minute felt like a century. I kept thinking of the old days. Matilda, the strong woman who had raised my brother and me alone after Dad died in a factory accident. She worked at the textile mill, came home exhausted, yet still cooked with a smile, and told us fairy tales. "My boys are going to make something of themselves," she used to say. Now she lay there, frail as a withered leaf, because of a youngest son and his wife. I clenched my fists, tears slipping silently down my cheeks. Why was life so cruel? Finally, the doctor emerged, his face grave, holding the test results. "You're Matilda's son, correct?" I stood up, my voice shaking. "Doctor, how is she? Is it serious?" He sighed heavily. "She's severely exhausted and malnourished. Her body has been pushed far beyond its limits for a long time. Weak heart, critical nutrient deficiencies, completely drained. But that's not the worst of it." My chest tightened as I waited for the rest. More alarmingly, her blood shows high residual levels of sedatives, administered continuously over an extended period. Drugs that are not appropriate for routine elderly care. They suppress the nervous system, cause memory loss and prolonged fatigue. I froze, my ears ringing, each word slicing through me like a blade. Sedatives? They had been forcing her to take poison to control her. The doctor continued bluntly. If this had gone on much longer, she could have suffered permanent neurological damage, even life-threatening complications. Coma, multiple organ failure. You brought her in just in time. I collapsed into a chair, my head spinning. I had left her in that house for 5 years, sent money, made video calls, but never came back, never checked. I was the guilty one. I had blindly trusted Colin. Regret crashed over me like a tidal wave. I buried my face in my hands and sobbed silently. "It's my fault. I'm so sorry, Mom." The doctor placed a hand on my shoulder. "What matters now is treatment. We'll keep her admitted for monitoring and recovery. Full fluids, nutrition, and complete cessation of the sedatives." I nodded, wiping my eyes. "Yes, do whatever it takes. I'll stay here and take care of her. Please talk only to me about everything." In the days that followed, Mom lay in a stark white hospital room, the steady beep of the heart monitor filling the silence. Thanks to full fluids, vitamins, proper nutrition, and stopping the sedatives entirely, Matilda slowly began to regain clarity. Her eyes were no longer vacant. A spark of awareness returned. She looked at me and gave a weak smile. "Paul, you really came back." I took her hand, my voice thick with emotion. "Yes, Mom. I'm here now. Just get better, okay?" She started recognizing people clearly again, speaking coherently. No longer days like that first day I found her in the dark kitchen. She asked about the nurses, the doctors, even reminisced. "I remember the night you left for Japan. I cried all night." Every word healed something inside me, yet also reminded me of the pain she had endured. I never left her bedside. I took care of every meal, every nap, every little thing. Mornings, I washed her face and spoon-fed her nutritious porridge. "Come on, Mom. It's good." Afternoons, I told her funny stories from Japan to make her laugh. Nights, I sat holding her hand while she slept, listening to her steady breathing. In the quiet hospital nights, with only rain tapping the window, I wondered what Colin and Carla were doing now. Mom grew stronger day by day. Color returned to her skin. Her hands stopped trembling. The doctor checked her and smiled. Excellent progress. No traces of the drugs left in her system. I breathed a sigh of relief, but the weight in my heart remained. Why did she have to suffer like this? One sunny afternoon, golden light streamed through the window, warming the room. I gently asked, "Mom, why did you let them treat you that way? Why didn't you tell me?" Matilda looked at me, her eyes suddenly filling with tears, then burst into wrenching sobs, her whole body shaking as if releasing years of pent-up pain. She cried loudly, tears soaking the pillow, clutching my hand. "My son, they controlled me. I was so scared." I held her, stroking her back. "Tell me everything, Mom. It's okay now." When she finally calmed down, she wiped her eyes and began, her voice trembling, each word cutting me to the core. She told me that sometime after I left for Japan, Colin and Carla came asking to stay, just temporarily. They were having a hard time. Because she loved her son, she happily agreed, thinking it would be nice to have family around. At first, they were attentive. Carla cooked. Colin fixed things around the house. Mom was overjoyed. I thought they had changed. But within months, their true colors emerged. They took over the house as if it were theirs, forced her to do all the chores, and monitored her every hour. They said, an old woman needs to keep busy to stay healthy. But really they made her clean and cook from morning till night. She said, choking up. They forbade her from going out. It's dangerous, Mom. They gradually cut off contact with neighbors by installing cameras and locking the doors. Then they started giving her vitamins for the brain to keep you sharp. She took them at first, thinking they were harmless. But soon her mind grew foggy, her body weak, her memory fragmented. She forgot names, dates, everything. When she tried to refuse the pills, they forced her and threatened, if you don't obey, we'll put you in a nursing home, and those places are hell. Terrified and cornered, she obeyed, right up until the day I returned. It hurt so much, son, but I endured it so you could work in peace. I asked why she never called me. She shook her head. I don't know how to use the phone properly, and Colin controlled it, took it away. If I tried to call you on my own, they'd starve me for days. Just water, no food. She recounted one time she secretly tried to call me. Carla caught her, snatched the phone, and screamed, do you want to starve? They locked her in her room for 2 days until she nearly passed out from hunger. Hearing all this, I gripped her hand so hard it hurt, my chest crushed by pain, rage, and burning guilt. How dare they? Colin, my own brother, my blood, tortured our mother like this. I held her tight. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'll make this right. She stroked my hair. All I need is you, Paul. Her story opened a black abyss. They hadn't just physically abused her. They had poisoned her mind and isolated her completely. I now understood those video calls. Her silence, her averted eyes. They'd been sitting right there, watching. Fury surged through me, mixed with cold determination. What was their motive? Money? The house? I would find out. But first, Mom had to be fully strong again. In the days that followed, I lived in a state of total chaos, as if trapped inside a whirlwind with no way out. By day, I sat beside Mom's hospital bed, smiling, chatting with her, spoon-feeding her nutritious porridge, telling funny stories from Japan, like the time I nearly fell off the scaffolding in a strong wind, or the best sushi I'd ever eaten. But inside my head, everything was a storm. I was torn between blind rage that made me want to storm back to the old house, punch Colin square in the face, and scream, you piece of filth, an endless self-reproach. How could I have been so blindly trusting? For 5 whole years, I sent money home faithfully, $1,000 every single month, thinking that was enough to keep Mom comfortable, enough to make up for my absence. In reality, I had abandoned her, left her alone to face 2 monsters wearing the masks of son and daughter-in-law. Every night, lying on the hospital room's hard sofa, I tossed and turned, haunted by the image of Mom kicked across the kitchen floor, mixed with memories of her smiling face the day I left for Japan. Take care of yourself, son. I'll be waiting for you. It was my fault. If I had come home sooner, if I had checked more carefully, none of this would have happened. I couldn't understand why Colin and Carla could treat our mother with such cruelty, or what their real goal was. What could they possibly want from a kind old woman? The money I sent, the little house I bought for her with my own sweat and blood. The thought sent ice through my veins, like an invisible hand squeezing my throat. The feeling that a much larger conspiracy was lurking behind everything wouldn't let me sit still. I couldn't just wait for Mom to recover and do nothing. The gnawing dread was like the ticking of a time bomb. I suddenly remembered an old high school friend who once mentioned a private investigator who could dig up any secret. The next morning, while Mom slept soundly after her 4-drip, I slipped out of the hospital and called Daniel. I asked him about a trustworthy PI. Paul, be careful, Daniel said, his voice worried. But I know a good one. Jack Harlan specializes in family cases and financial tracking. I'll send you his number. I called Jack immediately, my voice shaking as I gave him the short version. My brother and his wife have been abusing my mother. I need them watched. Jack listened calmly. I understand, Mr. Paul. I'll monitor the couple's every move. Home, work, finances. $500 a day. But I guarantee results. I agreed on the spot and wired the advance, my heart pounding like I was awaiting a verdict. This was the first step. I would no longer let them walk free. Just a few days later, Jack contacted me through an encrypted call, his voice low. "Paul, I have extremely serious information, enough to prove their real motive. Meet me at the coffee shop near the hospital." My heart hammered in my chest. I told Mom, I'm just going to grab some food, then rushed out into the light drizzle that made the air feel even heavier. In the small cafe, Jack sat in a dark corner with a thick folder. He slid it across the table. I got an audio recording from their living room while Colin and Carla were talking. I placed a legal listening device through the window. "You authorized it." I put on the earphones, pressed play, and my world collapsed. Carla's shrill voice. "We have to hurry and finish transferring the house title to us. Colin, Paul is back. Things could fall apart if he stays too long." Colin, anxious, "I know. Tomorrow I'll contact our usual notary. That guy will rubber stamp everything. Mom's forged power of attorney is still valid. Just a few more signatures and it's done." Carla, pressing, "Get it finished fast. I'm not losing this house. Paul's money transfers are almost gone. We need to sell the place for capital." The recording ended with their laughter, as if they were discussing a business deal instead of stealing their own mother's home. I sat frozen, my ears ringing, my hand trembling around the earphones. Transfer the house title, forged power of attorney. They were planning to seize the very house I had bought with years of blood and sweat so Mom could live out her days in peace. Jack continued gravely. "That's not all. I also discovered that the savings account in Matilda's name has been systematically drained over a long period. All withdrawals made by Colin using the forged power of attorney. I accessed the bank system. Here are the statements." He pushed over pages dense with numbers. The balance was exactly the money I had wired home every month for 5 years. More than $60,000, now almost completely gone. Only a few hundred left. The statement showed the money had been spent on gambling, luxury shopping, vacations, designer clothes, paying off gambling debts at local casinos, and personal indulgence for both of them. Transactions included $5,000 to a loan shark, $2,000 for a diamond ring for Carla, even expensive concert tickets. I held the folder and went numb, tears blurring my vision. I never imagined they weren't just stealing the money I sent. They were deliberately destroying Mom's health, drugging her into a stupor so she couldn't resist, isolating her so no one would interfere, all to seize everything. Now it all made sense. Forcing the sedatives, controlling her every move, cutting her off from the world. It wasn't random cruelty. It was a calculated plan from the start to strip her of her assets. They moved in pretending to care, gradually turned her into a slave, bled the bank account dry, and prepared to transfer the house. If I hadn't come back when I did, she would have been dumped in a nursing home, or worse, slowly killed by the drugs, and they would have walked away with everything. Pain, rage, and guilt crashed over me like a tidal wave. I sat in that cafe, gripping the folder until my knuckles went white, tears streaming down my face. How could Colin do this? My little brother, who sobbed in my arms when Dad died. Now he sold our mother for money. Amid the chaos, one thing became crystal clear. There was no turning back. If I stopped now, Mom would remain a victim forever, and people like them would keep doing it. They were destroying others. I wiped my tears and said firmly, "Thank you, Jack. I'm hiring you to expand the investigation. Dig deeper into the bank transactions, trace the forged documents and all their contacts with the notary's office." Jack nodded. "Done, but be extremely careful. Cornered animals panic and lash out." I nodded in return. After that, I quietly prepared the rest myself. Called the bank to verify statements, backed up every record, photographed every piece of evidence I had, every tiny fragment saved for the coming confrontation. For the first time since returning, the pain and fury inside me were joined by something colder and unbreakable: resolve. I would not let them get away with this. They would pay with prison, with losing everything they stole from my mother. I walked back to the hospital. Mom was sleeping peacefully under the pale yellow light. I sat beside her bed, took her thin hand in mine, and whispered, "I'll protect you. This time, No one will ever hurt you again. Outside, the night was deep and still. Inside my head, every link of a plan was quietly locking into place, silent, tense, like a massive storm gathering strength before it breaks. After gathering all the documents from the detective, I took the entire dossier to Daniel Harper, a close friend from college who was now a criminal and civil attorney. Daniel was tall, wore thick glasses, and was always as calm as a rock. But when I gave him a quick summary over the phone, his voice turned dead serious. "Paul, get to my office right now. This is no joke." His office sat in the city center, a small but tidy room lined with law books and thick with the smell of strong black coffee. I walked in, clutching the heavy folder, sweat beading on my forehead despite the cool weather. "Daniel, look at this. My own brother. They tortured my mother for money." He sat down and started flipping through page after page. Recordings, bank statements, photos of Colin meeting the notary. His face gradually paled, brows knitting tighter and tighter. I sat across from him, my heart pounding, my hands clasped so hard my knuckles went white. The heavy silence stretched for nearly half an hour. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "Paul, the initial evidence you have is pretty strong. The recording clearly shows intent to seize the house. The bank statements prove illegal withdrawals. But let's be straight. It's still not enough for me to feel confident filing charges or guaranteed to win in court." He looked me dead in the eye and continued without sugarcoating. "The recording can be attacked as invasion of privacy. The bank statements need official certification from the bank to be admissible. As for the abuse and forced medication, just your mother's testimony alone isn't enough. We need independent witnesses, neighbors, doctors, or third parties who directly saw what happened." I froze, but then nodded. Daniel was right. I couldn't rush this. I had to make it airtight so they couldn't slip away. He clapped a hand on my shoulder. "You start gathering statements from the neighbors. I'll tell you exactly how to record them legally. At the same time, keep the PI digging into the sedatives. We have to connect all the dots to prove intent." I left his office heavy-hearted, but more determined than ever. Back at the hospital, Mom asked, "Where did you go, son?" I smiled. "Just meeting an old friend, Mom." That same day, I began collecting more evidence myself, starting with the neighbors around the house I had bought for Mom. It's a quiet suburban street of similar bungalows. Most residents are elderly and had known Mom for years. I remembered how she used to bring cookies to Mrs. Smith next door, how Mr. Johnson mowed her lawn for her. Now I needed them to testify. It wasn't easy at first. I drove to the neighborhood and parked a safe distance away, so Colin and Carla, who were still living there, probably panicking because Mom had disappeared, wouldn't spot me. First, I knocked on Mrs. Smith's door. She's a 70-year-old widow who often sits on her porch knitting. "Hello. I'm Paul, Matilda's son." She peered at me through her thick glasses, her eyes wary. "Yes, I remember you. What do you need, young man?" I took a deep breath and explained briefly. "Mom is in the hospital, exhausted and injured because Colin and Carla abused her. I need you to tell me what you've seen so we can get justice." She was silent for a moment, staring at the street, then sighed. "Come in. I feel so sorry for Matilda." Her voice shook as she spoke. "I heard shouting from your house all the time. Carla screaming at Matilda, calling her useless. Several times I saw your mother pushed to the ground right in the front yard, crying but too scared to call for help." I wrote everything down, my heart breaking. My strong mother shoved to the ground like that. Mrs. Smith signed the statement. My eyes burned with tears. Next was Mr. Johnson, a barely retired carpenter. At first, he was reluctant. "I don't want to get involved in family business." But when I showed him a photo of Mom lying in the hospital bed, skin and bones, 4 lines in her arms, his expression changed. He let out a heavy sigh. "Lord, Matilda is the kindest woman." Then he told me slowly. "Many nights I heard shouting. Colin yelling, 'Clean the floor. Don't be lazy.' Another time, I personally saw Carla shove her so hard she fell when Matilda spilled some water. She just lay there crying, afraid to get up." He gave detailed accounts, signed the statement, and even offered his phone number for verification. I thanked him, my pulse racing. These were independent witnesses. Then Mr. Ramirez, who had security cameras covering the whole block, provided footage showing Carla locking Mom outside on the porch one rainy night for 2 hours as punishment for not mopping properly. Mom sat shivering in a thin shirt while Carla smirked from inside. That video chilled me to the bone. Take it, Ramirez said. I hate elder abuse. Each testimony was another piece of the puzzle, making the picture clearer and more painful. Why had no one helped her sooner? I blamed myself, but kept going, walking a tightrope of nerves. At the same time, the PI kept tracing the sedatives Mom had been forced to take. I called him. Jack, focus on the drugs. I need the source and who bought them. A few days later, he called back, excited. Got it, Paul. Carla repeatedly bought the drugs from an unlicensed back alley clinic. The doctor there has no proper license. All transactions cash, no receipts, completely off the books. He sent photos and covert video. Carla entering the clinic, leaving with bags of pills, hundreds of high-dose benzodiazepines over many months. Highly addictive and known to cause cognitive decline. Combined with Mom's own testimony, this proved the drugs were administered deliberately and systematically, not for treatment, but to keep her docile and unable to resist signing papers. Jack said, "This is solid independent evidence. You can charge them with illegal drug administration." When I finally had everything, neighbor statements, security footage, drug evidence, the original recording, and bank records, I brought the complete file back to Daniel for final legal review. His office looked like a war room. Papers everywhere. After going through it all, he looked up, his eyes gleaming. "Paul, you did an amazing job. Independent neighbors, clear video of abuse, drug evidence proving intent, bank fraud. The recording combined. This is rock solid. Fraud, theft of property, elder abuse, illegal drug use." I exhaled, still nervous. "You're sure they'll deny everything?" Daniel grinned. "How can they deny physical evidence? I'll file the criminal complaint on your mother's behalf and submit the entire package to the police and prosecutor's office." We drafted the complaint together. I signed on Mom's behalf with power of attorney, my heart racing. The day we filed it, rain poured as if the sky itself were washing away the darkness. Daniel drove me to police headquarters, the waterproof briefcase on my lap. The receiving officer reviewed the file, his face turning grave. "This is very serious. We're opening an investigation immediately." From that moment, it was no longer just a family tragedy. It had officially become a criminal case. I walked out into the rain, water lashing my face, but for the first time, I felt a mix of relief and electric anticipation. Colin and Carla would be summoned. They would panic. Back at the hospital, Mom looked at me and asked, "Are you happy, son?" I hugged her tight. "Yes, Mom. Everything is going to be all right." But inside, the storm was rising. Justice was coming, and I would watch them fall. Then the day finally came. The authorities officially summoned Colin and Carla to the police station for questioning regarding the abuse of Matilda, illegal appropriation of property, and the unlawful administration of sedatives. Daniel called me. "They've received the summons. First session is tomorrow morning. You don't have to be there. Let the police handle it." But I couldn't just sit and wait. I quietly went to the station, stood under a dripping tree in the light rain, and watched from a distance. Colin and Carla arrived in that beat-up old car, the one we had once pooled money to buy together years ago. When they stepped out, both were ashen. Carla clutched her handbag so tightly her knuckles went white. Colin kept his head down, like a convicted man. They disappeared into the gray building, and I imagined the scene inside. A cold interrogation room, harsh fluorescent lights, detectives sitting across from them with a thick stack of evidence. Right from the first session, they panicked, twisting, denying, lying. Daniel later told me from his sources. Colin claimed, "I only took care of Mom, never abused her." Carla insisted those were just vitamins, not sedatives. They denied everything, but the videos and bank statements made them stammer. I pictured Colin, the brother who once strutted around, now trembling when asked, "Why did you drain your mother's savings account?" And Carla, the sharp-tongued woman, reduced to mumbling, I don't know anything. A mix of tension and grim satisfaction coursed through me. They were scared. They finally realized the net was closing. After leaving the station, Colin and Carla understood the situation was completely out of control and prosecution was now very real. They no longer laughed or joked. They sped home in panic. Jack the PI was still watching and reported, "They're screaming at each other." Carla yelled, "You've dragged me into this." Colin was smashing things. They tried to hire lawyers, but the evidence was so overwhelming that no one wanted the case. Raw terror swallowed them whole. They knew there was no escape. The recording clearly revealed their plan to steal the house. The security footage showed Mom locked outside in the rain. The bank statements proved the theft. The neighbors' testimonies were airtight. I stayed at the hospital, caring for Mom, but my blood was racing. Justice was closing in. Mom sensed it and asked, "What's worrying you, Paul?" I shook my head. "Nothing, Mom, just work." Then, in the grip of absolute fear, the two of them showed up at the hospital, the first time in ages. They appeared before Matilda, looking broken, haggard, and desperate. It was a late afternoon. The rain had stopped, weak sunlight filtering through the window. I was feeding Mom porridge when the door opened. They stepped in, Colin gaunt, dark circles under his eyes. Carla's makeup smudged, clothes wrinkled. They stood frozen near the door, afraid to come closer. Colin mumbled, "Mom, Paul, we came to visit." Mom froze. The spoon in her hand trembled. That familiar look of fear returned to her eyes, memories of the abuse flooding back. I stood up and planted myself in front of the bed, my voice ice cold. "What are you two doing here? Haven't you hurt her enough?" They exchanged glances. Then Colin dropped to his knees, tears streaming. "Mom, I'm sorry. It's all my fault." He sobbed, begging Mom to forgive him, blaming debts, desperation, Carla's influence, pleading with her to withdraw the complaint. "Mom, I was drowning in gambling debts. I panicked. Carla pushed me, so we had to take your money to pay them off. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Withdraw the complaint. I don't want to go to prison." He wailed, clutching the bed frame, looking utterly pathetic. Carla knelt beside him, her voice shaking. "Mom, I was wrong. I was greedy, but I regret it now. Give us a way out, please. We swear we'll pay back every cent. Leave the house. Disappear from your life forever. Don't send us to jail," she cried, tears rolling down her cheeks. But I could see the falseness, her eyes darting, still acting. I stood over them and saw them clearly for what they were. No longer arrogant, just naked fear. Colin, who once hugged me so smugly at the front door, now groveled like a wet dog. Carla, who had kicked my mother on the kitchen floor, now begged on her knees. My heart ached. This was my own flesh and blood, yet also my enemy. I couldn't hold back. My voice was still as I listed every crime. "You think I don't know everything? I have proof of it all. Video of you locking Mom outside in the rain. Carla, you kicking her when she fainted. Every dollar I sent home, you drained it for gambling and shopping. Every sedative pill you forced down her throat. Colin, to make her sign fake documents and steal her house. You were going to sell her home to pay your debts." They hung their heads, unable to meet my eyes. Colin could barely speak. I shouted, "Admit it. Admit what you did to her." For the first time, with no way left to lie, Colin confessed everything. Greed, crushing gambling debts, Carla's urging, forcing the drug so Mom would sign the forged power of attorney, planning to sell the house. "Fine, I admit it. I stole the money you sent. I was drowning in debt. Carla convinced me to drug Mom so she'd sign papers. We were going to transfer the house and sell it. I was wrong." Carla nodded, sobbing. "I was greedy, too. I spent it on clothes, trips." They bowed their heads in shame, all arrogance gone. I looked at them, rage boiling, yet pain twisting inside me. This was my little brother, now a stranger. Hearing their full confession, Mom understood everything. She trembled, tears falling endlessly. The pain of what they'd done was still raw, but a mother's love made her unable to bear seeing her son in prison. She sobbed, stroking Colin's hair. "My child, Why did you hurt me like this? It hurt so much. Then she looked at me, her voice frail. Paul, I can't bear it. Give them one chance, son. I fiercely objected. No, Mom. They nearly killed you. Stole everything. Tried to take your house. They have to face the law. But she shook her head, tears streaming. I know, but Colin is still my son. I can't watch him go to prison. Give them a chance to start over, on the condition they leave the house immediately, repay every dollar they took, and disappear from my life forever. She turned to them, her voice weak but firm. Promise me. Pay back the money and leave. Never come back. After a long internal struggle, out of respect for my mother's wishes, I agreed to withdraw the criminal complaint. While the case was still in the preliminary verification stage, Daniel warned, You sure? Withdrawing now stops the case. But if they break the agreement, you can refile. I nodded heavily. I'm honoring Mom's decision. We contacted the police, withdrew the complaint, and Colin and Carla signed a legally binding commitment to repay the full $60,000 in installments and vacate the house within a week. For now, they escaped criminal prosecution. They left the hospital with fake gratitude. Colin hugging Mom one last time. Carla forcing a smile. Thank you, Mom. Paul. But I saw the truth in their eyes. No real remorse, only temporary relief. I walked them to the door, an uneasy premonition gnawing at me. Would they keep their word, or would they betray us again? The rain began to fall once more, as if warning that the storm was far from over. A few days later, once Mom had fully recovered and the doctors confirmed she was ready to be discharged, I drove her back to the old house so she could rest and regain her strength. It was a beautiful morning. Gold sunlight filtered through the trees. A gentle breeze carried the scent of damp earth after the rain. I drove slowly. Mom sat beside me, gazing out the window, her hand tightly holding mine. Paul, I've missed the garden so much. I'm going to plant flowers again. I smiled. Of course, Mom. I'll help you. From now on, I'm staying here with you. No more Japan. She stroked my hair, her voice warm. My boy is all grown up, but you're still the same little child to me. My heart felt warm, yet a faint shadow of unease lingered. Why had Colin been completely silent? No calls, no messages. They had promised to repay the money in installments, but so far only the first $10,000 had arrived. What about the rest? I told myself, they're terrified of prison. They'll keep their word. The car turned onto the familiar street. Trees rustled on both sides, and the house appeared at the end of the road. Then I froze. My heart slammed against my ribs. I had been certain Colin and Carla had already moved out. But the moment the car turned the corner, a bright red for sale sign hanging on the iron gate stopped me cold for several seconds. The glaring red board with bold white letters swung gently in the breeze. For sale. Contact this number. My heart pounded so hard it felt like someone was squeezing it. What the hell? They are selling the house. I whispered, easing off the gas, my eyes locked on the sign. Mom noticed too. Her voice trembled. Paul, why is there a for sale sign? I pulled over a short distance away, trying to stay calm, though my hands shook slightly on the wheel. Strangers were coming in and out of the yard, measuring, taking photos, chatting loudly as if this were no longer Mom's home. A man in a suit held a clipboard and pointed at the porch. Renovate this part. At the garage, two others photographed the backyard, laughing. Great location, perfect for flippers. My heart stopped. This was Mom's house, the place where she planted flowers, cooked meals, where I grew up. How dare they? I stepped out of the car in a daze and walked over. When I asked what was going on, the man in the suit looked at me casually. This house title was transferred a while ago. We're a real estate company. Bought it from a young couple, Colin and Carla. I think they sold it fast. Good price. The new owner is measuring for renovations, turning it into a small office. The words title was transferred hit me like a thunderbolt. My ears rang. My mind went blank. My legs nearly gave out. Transferred. They had promised to leave the house and repay the money, but they sold it. This was betrayal. I leaned against the gate, gasping for air. The image of them kneeling in the hospital, begging for mercy, flashed before me. Fake smiles, crocodile tears. They had exploited Mom's kindness to get the final signatures. I immediately tried calling Colin. Number disconnected. Carla, no answer. All contacts blocked. Facebook, email, everything. Dread flooded me like a tidal wave. I called Daniel, almost shouting, my voice breaking. Daniel, they sold the house. The title's been transferred. What do we do? Mom is collapsing. Daniel stayed calm. Paul, breathe. I'm checking the land registry office right now. Minutes later, he called back, his voice grave. Confirmed. The house was transferred using forged documents while Matilda was still under the influence of the sedatives. Her mental capacity was impaired at the time. The signatures were made when she was drugged and not legally competent. They used the fake power of attorney to rush it through. In that instant, I understood. The moment they knelt and begged for forgiveness, they had already planned this final betrayal. They groveled so Mom would soften, withdraw the complaint, and give them just enough time to transfer the title before the police dug deeper. They knew she wasn't mentally competent because of the very drugs they forced on her to contest it. Mom collapsed to the ground in front of the gate when she heard the news. Her face was ashen, her eyes empty as the full realization hit. She had personally handed her betrayers their last chance. She sat down hard on the pavement, clutching her chest, sobbing without sound. I trusted them. I was wrong, Paul. Our house is gone, isn't it? I knelt and held her, tears streaming down my face. Mom, I'm sorry. I'll get the house back. I swear. But the pain was unbearable. She had suffered so much already, and now this final blow. I clenched my fists. Rage, agony, and crushing guilt tearing me apart. It was my fault. I had opposed withdrawing the complaint, but I respected her wish. I gave in the opening. If I had stood firm, the house would still be hers. At that moment, I knew for certain Colin and Carla never intended to change. They only used Mom's mercy to pull off one last theft. They begged for forgiveness to buy time, sold the house, took the money, and vanished. That uneasy premonition had become brutal reality, stabbing straight through my heart. I helped Mom back into the car. She leaned on me, crying the entire way to a hotel. We no longer had a home. I told Daniel to report it to the police immediately. Daniel, they committed fraud. They forged the transfer, he replied. Already on it. Paul, this is a far more serious crime now. Document forgery and large-scale property theft. Standing in front of the house that had sheltered Mom through her old age, watching strangers measure and plan while the for sale sign swayed in the wind, I finally understood. The real war was only just beginning. I looked at the house one last time. This was war, and I would not stop until they paid the price. The hours that followed were pure hell. I took Mom to stay temporarily in the old family home of a relative. Matilda lay on the bed, her eyes red and swollen, whispering over and over, I was wrong, Paul. I never should have forgiven them. I held her tightly and tried to comfort her. It's not your fault, Mom. It's mine. I'll get everything back. I promise. But inside, I was burning. Rage and guilt tore at me. Why had I let her talk me into withdrawing the complaint? Why hadn't I stood firm from the start? Daniel worked fast. He prepared a new criminal complaint with the additional evidence, forged title transfer documents, the fraudulent sale of the house, and filed it with the police. The officer who received it looked grave. This is a big case, Mr. Paul. The stolen savings plus the value of the house amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Clear signs of organized crime, forgery, asset flight. Within days, federal arrest warrants were issued. Photos of Colin and Carla went up everywhere. Airports, bus stations, even local TV news. Wanted, fraud, theft of property, elder abuse. The red headline flashed on the screen. I stayed at the television, my heart twisting. My little brother, now a nationally wanted criminal. That uneasy feeling I'd had in the hospital had come true. But I felt no relief. Only pain. Pain that the family was shattered. Pain that Mom had to endure yet another blow. The days of waiting for news were torture. Constant tension and self-reproach. I cared for Mom by day, trying to make her smile. Cooking nutritious porridge. taking her for slow walks in the nearby park, telling her stories about the old afternoons when she taught me to cook in our kitchen. The deepest torment was about Colin, my own flesh and blood. When we were kids, we shared a room. I told him ghost stories and he'd curl up against me in fear. The first time he was bullied at school, I fought the other boys. I came home bruised. Mom scolded me, but he hugged me and whispered, "Thank you." Now he had betrayed everything, sold Mom's house and fled with the money. How'd he change so much? Gambling debts, greed. Every night I lay awake, memories swirling. Colin, grinning. When I sent money home, never knowing he was using it to pay loan sharks. I called Daniel every day. Any news? He always answered. They're tracking them, Paul. Stay calm. But how could I stay calm? The suspense was unbearable, like waiting for a bomb to explode. Where were they hiding? What were they doing with the money from Mom's house? After weeks of tracing financial transactions, traffic cameras, and witness statements, the police finally narrowed down their location. Daniel kept me updated. They followed the house sale money to a new account opened under fake names in a neighboring state. Highway cameras caught their car at toll booths. A motel worker reported, young couple, always arguing, so they were on the run. I pictured the police war room. Maps, photos, teams coordinating. It felt like a crime movie, but this was real life. And the victim was my mother. Finally, after 3 agonizing weeks, Daniel called at midnight. Paul, they've been caught. The arrest happened at dawn. They were in a rundown motel, already packing to flee to another state. Police reports later revealed the details. SWAT burst in at 4 a.m. while they were still asleep, suitcases ready by the door. Carla screamed. Colin tried to run but was tackled and cuffed. You are under arrest for fraud and theft of property, the officer shouted. Mugshot spread across the news. Colin, unshaven and wild-eyed. Carla, disheveled, no longer glamorous. The day I learned of their arrest, I felt no relief, only a cold, hollow emptiness. I sat beside Mom. Daniel called to confirm. They're in custody, Paul. The case is fully reopened. Mom wept. My son, why did it come to this? I held her, but my heart was numb. No joy, no triumph, just emptiness. Colin was my brother. Now he was a prisoner. The betrayal hurt too much, like a wound that would never heal. I remembered the day Dad died. We clung to each other, crying, while Mom whispered, "Take care of each other." That was gone forever. Justice had come, but the family was broken beyond repair. The investigation reopened in full. Every crime, abusing Matilda, forcing sedatives on her, forging documents, draining the savings account, selling the house, and fleeing, was added to the charges. Police searched the motel and found forged papers and over $200,000 in cash from the house sale hidden in their luggage. Interrogations combined with old evidence, security footage of Mom locked outside, the recorded conversation about stealing the house, bank statements, neighbor testimonies, drug records from the shady clinic, left no room for denial. Daniel helped. Your mom gave a detailed statement, Paul. They can't talk their way out. The investigation lasted 2 months. The file was massive. The indictment was clear: organized fraud, elder abuse, illegal drug administration, asset flight. I followed every step, nerves on edge, waiting for the trial. The moment the truth would finally be laid bare. The trial came a few months later. Mom and I attended as victims, facing Colin and Carla for the first time since their arrest. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, spectators, the air thick with the smell of old wooden paper. I helped Mom to the victim's bench. She sat trembling, her eyes fixed on the floor. Colin and Carla were led in, wearing prison uniforms and shackles. Colin had bowed, gaunt, unshaven. Carla's hair in a messy ponytail, her face sunken, no makeup. I looked straight at them. My heart ached. My brother now looked like a stranger, an enemy. The trial began. The prosecutor read the charges. Defendants Colin Rowe and Carla Rowe are charged with organized fraud, theft of property, forgery of documents, elder abuse, illegal administration of sedatives, and flight with stolen assets following the unlawful sale of the victim's home. Colin kept his head down the entire time, barely able to speak, only muttering, "I was wrong." When questioned, Carla tried to shift blame. "I wasn't the mastermind. I just followed my husband. Those pills were supplements." But every piece of evidence crushed her lies. The bank record showing $60,000 drained. The recorded conversation about transferring the house. Neighbor testimonies of abuse. Video of mom locked outside in the rain. Forged drug prescriptions. Their lawyer pleaded, "My clients are remorseful and request leniency." The prosecutor shot back, remorseful, after selling the house and fleeing the state. Witnesses took the stand. Mrs. Smith recounted the shouting. Mr. Ramirez showed the video. Mom wept as she described being forced to take the drugs. The evidence piled up like a mountain. The judge delivered the sentence. Colin Rowe, 18 years imprisonment for organized fraud, forgery, elder abuse, and asset flight. Carla Rowe, 22 years imprisonment for masterminding the abuse, illegal forced administration of sedatives, forging notary documents, and complicity in theft. The gavel fell. The judge's voice echoed. The defendants exploited family trust and systematically tormented the victim for financial gain. Sentences as stated. The court voided the house sale due to forgery, ordered full restitution of the stolen savings and the proceeds from the illegal sale to be returned to Matilda, and seized all related assets, cash from the motel, bank accounts, even their car, to enforce repayment. As the trial ended, I quietly helped Mom out of the courtroom. For the first time in years, she walked slowly but with a lightness, as if an enormous burden had finally been lifted from her life. She leaned on me and whispered, "It's over, son. I'm so tired." I held her close, tears falling. "Yes, Mom. Let's go home and rest." A few months after the trial, I visited the prison at Colin's request. A letter had arrived in shaky handwriting. "Paul, I want to see you one last time." I hesitated, but Mom said, "Go, son. Hear what he has to say." The prison was far away, high walls, razor wire, cold air. I sat in the visiting room, my heart in turmoil. Why meet? What was left to say? Behind the glass partition sat the man who used to be my little brother, thin, worn in a gray uniform, his hair cropped short, his eyes ringed with exhaustion. He picked up the phone, his head bowed, and admitted every mistake. He begged me to take care of Mom for the rest of her life. "Paul, I was wrong. Greed and debt swallowed me. Carla pushed me, but it was my fault. Please forgive me, even though I don't deserve it. Take care of Mom for me. I regret everything." He cried, wiping tears on the glass that separated us. I looked at him for a long time. The hatred was gone. Hatred only exhausts you. But forgiveness was impossible. The wounds ran too deep. I spoke slowly, each word heavy. "Colin, do you have any idea how much Mom suffered because of you? I'll be there for her until her last day, but not for you. You lost that right the moment you betrayed her." I stood, turned, and walked out of the prison. Inside me, there was no rage, no loud sorrow, only a deep, quiet pain. I understood one thing clearly. Some cracks in a family, no matter how the law closes the case, can never be mended. They stay broken forever. 2 weeks after the trial, I took Mom away from the old city, a place now filled with too many painful memories, to begin a completely new life. That city with its familiar streets and the old house, now seized and awaiting execution of the judgment, felt like a ghost that wouldn't stop haunting us. Every corner held a reminder. The iron gate with its surveillance cameras, the kitchen where Mom had been kicked to the floor, the living room where they had controlled her every glance. "Mom, it's time to go," I said firmly, helping her pack the few personal belongings we still had from the temporary hotel. She nodded, her eyes red. "I don't want to stay here anymore. There's been too much suffering." We got in the car and drove south, far from the noisy industrial city, toward a quiet coastal town. I had sold a few things I still owned in Japan, and combined that with the money recovered through the court judgment, more than $60,000 from the savings account, plus the full value of the illegally sold house. to secure our future. Mom sat beside me, gazing out the window, holding my hand tightly. Paul, I'm scared to start over from nothing. I stroked her hand. It's okay, Mom. I'm here now. We'll have a new home, a new life. Inside, I was nervous, too. Would she ever forget? Would I? I bought a small, peaceful house near the ocean. Nothing luxurious, but filled with the sunlight and calm that Mom had been denied for so many years. I found it online. A white wooden bungalow with a wide front yard of soft white sand, just a few hundred meters from the beach. Only 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, but big windows that welcomed the morning light and the constant, soothing sound of waves day and night. In the beginning, Matilda still startled awake at night, still flinched at the sound of strangers. But with each passing day, the panic in her eyes slowly faded. At night, she would sometimes wake and call out, "Paul, where are you?" I'd rush in and hold her. "I'm right here, Mom. Go back to sleep." She'd cry. I dreamed Colin was hitting me. I'd rub her back, my heart aching. "It's over, Mom. Now it's just you and me." Gradually, the sound of the ocean became nature's own sedative. She slept more deeply, woke less often. I took her for regular therapy sessions and physical rehabilitation, little by little, helping her reclaim a normal rhythm of life. The psychologist in the nearby town, a kind, middle-aged woman, listened as Mom poured out the years of control, forced medication, and betrayal. "You're very strong, Mrs. Matilda," the doctor said. After the first session, Mom cried, but slowly opened up. "I'm afraid of my own son. Yet, I still love him." I waited outside, anxious. Would she ever heal? At the same time, I got her moving again. Early morning walks on the beach, breathing the salt air, eating fresh seafood. Her frail body began to fill out. Color returned to her skin. Her hand stopped shaking when she held a glass. One afternoon, she said, smiling a real smile, "Paul, I feel stronger now." I hugged her tight. "That's all I need, Mom. Seeing you like this makes everything worth it." Matilda started planting flowers on the front porch again, cooking simple meals, and for the first time in years, I saw her laugh without fear. She bought rose seeds at the local market, knelt in the dirt, her hands still a little unsteady, and planted them. "I'll make a garden as beautiful as the old one." I helped dig, water, and watch the green shoots appear. The kitchen smelled of the fish soup she made the old way. Simple but warm. "Eat, son." Mom cooked it just like before. She smiled, the lines around her eyes softening, no longer tense with dread. Watching her, my heart felt full. This was the light after all the darkness. I decided to return to the work I loved, but this time not as an escape. I wanted to build a real, stable future for us. In Japan, I had worked only to send money home, running from true responsibility. Now, I found local work, a welder at a ship repair yard near the coast. The pay wasn't high, but it was enough. And most importantly, I came home every night, ate dinner with Mom, and told her about my day. The future felt steady. I saved to buy a little more land, maybe open a small workshop one day and care for her until the end. My heart was calmer, though the memories remained. Now they fueled me to keep me strong. Some evenings we sat on the porch together, watching the sunset paint the sea red, waves whispering endlessly. I thought back over the entire journey, from the moment I stood in front of the old gate to the day I faced them in court. My soul grew quiet. I realized the deepest pain was not the loss of money or the house, but the betrayal of trust by my own blood. Money can be recovered, a house reclaimed, but trust in Colin, my little brother, was shattered forever. I once believed family was unbreakable. Now I know the trail from within hurts 100 times more. Yet I also understood this. If I hadn't come home that day, if I hadn't dared to face the truth, Mom might never have had these peaceful years. If I'd flown straight back to Japan as planned, she would likely have died slowly from the drugs, the house lost, and no one would ever have known. Coming home, even though it hurt, was the right choice. Watching Matilda quietly water her flowers each morning, I realized that justice doesn't always come quickly. But when you keep walking to the end, it always finds a way. She waters the roses under the morning sun, smiling to herself, rediscovering who she is. Justice, through detectives, evidence, in the courtroom, was slow but certain. Like the ocean wearing down stone. I learned that greed can turn a loved one into a monster. But love and awareness can pull a person back from the edge of darkness. Colin's greed made him a monster. My love and Mom's love saved her. Awareness. Recognizing the warning signs was the key. And the hardest lesson, never leave the fate of those you love to blind trust, because evil can sometimes wear the mask of family. Compassion is noble, but misplaced, it can become the knife that cuts the compassionate one. Mom forgave them, and they used that mercy to sell her house. Blind trust nearly killed her. My advice to anyone listening to this: truly care for your aging parents, not just with money, but with your presence and your listening ears. When something feels wrong, don't stay silent and endure. And don't delay the truth. Every day you wait can be a day you can never get back. I sent money, but I didn't come home. Didn't really listen. And I almost lost her. Care means being there, calling often, visiting. That is the lesson I paid for in pain. I close this chapter not with hatred, but with a silent promise to myself. From this day forward, I will never again let anyone hurt my mother. I watch her water the flowers and whisper the vow, Mom, I'll always be here. I hold no more hatred for Colin. He's already paying the price. There's only peace and the quiet joy of being beside her. The journey ends, but the lesson lasts forever. What would you have done in my place, especially when faced with Mom's plea for forgiveness for my brother? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.